Hi guys, my name's Sophie and today I'm going to be doing a book review. Yesterday I picked up a book that I have been lent by a friend of my parents, and he said that it'd be really interesting for me to read, and I kind of put it on the shelf and I was like, yeah, I'll get round to it eventually, maybe, I don't know. And then yesterday I was like, I need a quick read that's not going to hurt my brain too much. I need it to be a standalone book and I need it not to involve masses of complicated plot. So I picked up this book knowing full well that it was non-fiction and therefore didn't have a plot and was more about kind of stuff to think about. And that book was The Young Atheist's Handbook by Alom Shaha. Alom Shaha. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, I apologise. I feel like that is the correct pronunciation, but I could be very wrong. So this book, as you may well have guessed from the title, is a bit about religion and also about the lack of religion in people who don't believe in any gods. Disclaimer, I am an atheist. I don't believe in God. I don't believe that there is a magical man in the sky who has planned out my life for me, and I don't believe that he created the world or the universe or anything. So if you do, I have nothing against that. I really don't, and that may or may not affect how you see this review. So this guy wrote this book, and it's basically a kind of autobiographical memoir and really long essay about religion and atheism. So this guy, Alom, I'm gonna keep calling him Alom even if that's not how you pronounce it because I don't know how else to pronounce it. He was raised in a Muslim family in a relatively heavily Muslim community in Elephant and Castle in London, where he moved when he was quite young after his parents had moved from Bangladesh with him and I think one or two of his other siblings to London. And it's kind of it looks at why he doesn't believe in God and how he came to that, and kind of also a look at why he is critical of Islam and Christianity and Judaism, all of which I totally agree with. I have a lot of issues with religion, less about the fact that they believe in something that I don't think is real, and more about the way that they enforce, that the religion enforces rules that I think are ridiculous, basically. And this book talks a lot about those sort of rules, that at the time when those religious texts were written, like the Bible or the Quran, that it made sense for those rules to be there. So he talks a lot about not eating pork, and that he says that when the Quran was written it made sense not to eat pork because a lot of the time pigs carried diseases that were really quite difficult to get rid of, so it was just better off that you didn't eat pork. Whereas now we have refrigeration and we know how to cook meat so that it's safe. That's not really something that you need to rule out. And the same thing goes for things with Christianity about sex outside of marriage. When the Bible was written, it was kind of safer to only have sex within marriage because it meant that women didn't end up as often with children that they couldn't support because the man that got them pregnant didn't stick around. Obviously that didn't always work out for many different reasons that I'm not going to get into in this video, but that nowadays we have condoms and we have the pill and we have ways of protecting against STIs and pregnancy, and we don't really need the rule that says you can't have sex outside of marriage. This is not in any way me saying that people who believe that they should only have sex with the person that they're committed to for the rest of their life are wrong. That's totally your choice. But so this book covers a lot of different things, and I thought it was really well written and really well kind of explained a lot of the things that I feel about religion and that I feel about the way that religion affects the world. And he talks about a lot of different things and how religion and, to a certain extent, atheism connect those things. For example, he talks quite a lot about racism, how racism affected him growing up as a Bangladeshi immigrant, and that's quite an interesting way of talking about this. He also talks about words and their meaning, two of which are the N-word and Paki, which I really don't like those words for the specific reasons that he talks about in this book, about that their connotations are incredibly racist and horribly hurtful. And so even if people have said, oh, they're just words and they've been reclaimed, that's fine. Like, black people who use the N-word are perfectly entitled to do that. It's a reclaiming of the word that is horrible, that has been used in a horrible context and a very racist context, and that is their business. But as a white person, I feel I have absolutely no right to use that word. And the same goes for using the word Paki, really, because although it's a shortening of the word Pakistani, it doesn't really mean someone from Pakistan. It usually refers to people from the Middle East, and it's usually used as a racial slur. And he kind of talks about how those words, while they're being reclaimed nowadays, still hold really negative connotations for him, and I think that's something that everyone should be aware of, and it was really well written about. He also talks about the rise of Islamophobia since 9/11 and how that is affected, and how it means that a lot of people who are Muslim have kind of retaliated because of Islamophobia to kind of embrace their Islamic self more and to embrace their Muslim traits more, which he totally understands. And after reading this, I totally understand as well. Like, I think that's something that I hadn't thought about before, and actually thinking about it, it makes a lot of sense. Like, if someone came to you and said that everything you do because of one characteristic was horrible, I think I'd cling to that characteristic a bit more, and that's basically what these people are doing. There's a lot of stuff in this book that you also wouldn't think of being connected to religion. For example, he talks quite a lot about teachers and how it was that good teachers managed to help him in his life so much. So much of this book was so wonderful. He also talks quite a bit about indoctrination and the way that religion is kind of indoctrinated to small children from a very, very early age, in lots of different ways that you don't really think about, including he talks quite a bit about the Chronicles of Narnia books by C.S. Lewis that he says he loved as a child and continues to love, and every year will reread them, but that he didn't know until he was 16 that they are a metaphor for Christianity, and that Aslan is effectively an even more fictional version of the Son of God. I say even more because I don't believe that there was a Son of God in the first place. And that kind of, he felt a little bit cheated by C.S. Lewis. Now, he still reads the books and he still loves them, and I also still love the C.S. Lewis books, despite the fact that they're so incredibly religious. And I found that a really interesting thing to read about and learn about. He also has a really good definition of the hijab and the other garments that Islamic women wear, either by choice or sometimes through force of the men in their lives. And he talks about, while the majority of the West believe that women are forced to wear these things, and that in some cases that is true, a lot of the Islamic and Muslim women that he knows do it out of choice as a way of parading their identity, which is something they are incredibly entitled to do because of freedom of choice of what to wear. And I thought that was a really good explanation, and also a really good argument as to why it should be that we should allow those things. And currently in the UK they are allowed, despite some people's attempts at meaning that we should ban burqas and hijabs, which I incredibly disagree with. He also talks about a similarity that I have seen in previous things, and I've thought about but never really been able to express very clearly, about faith to God being incredibly similar to a romantic relationship, in that if you try to talk to someone who has fallen in love about why you don't think their new partner is good for them, even logic won't really convince them otherwise. And that if you talk to someone who believes in God and you have very logical you have logical reasons for why you don't believe in God and why you don't think God exists, often they won't listen to you because it's very similar, and that kind of thing has been something that I have thought about several times in the past couple of years, and I think it's really interesting. I thought this book was written really well, and I think it's got a lot of really very interesting thoughts and ideas about religion. And there are two quotes that I want to read from this book, and then I will stop this review. But I want to reiterate again that if you believe in religion, in any form of religion, that is entirely your choice and your business. And I have no issue with people believing in something. The issues that I have with religion are more about the rules that I believe are incredibly unnecessary and often very hurtful to people, and that if I ever criticise your religion in a video, or if I meet you and I criticise your religion, it is not a criticism of you as a person. It is a criticism of the Institute of Religion, and I never intend to offend anybody by saying that. The first quote that I want to read is why I think this book kind of summarises how I feel quite a lot about religion, and then the other quote is a quote I think that the booktube community will quite enjoy. So, some might argue that I am just as bad as religious believers in this desire, that I want everyone to think what I think, but there is one crucial difference. I want people to genuinely decide for themselves, to make informed decisions, and if having the freedom to do that means they come to the different conclusions about what they believe, then unless their beliefs hurt other people, I will not condemn them for it. All people, especially all children, should have the right and information to be able to work out the truth, or otherwise, of religion for themselves. Which kind of summarises why I think people should read this book, and also why I think people should talk about religion in general, because I disagree with a lot of things in religion, but I want people to understand that my disagreement is not a personal one for them, it's about the religion itself. The second quote that I want to read is one about books that happens quite early on in the book. I love books. They are central to my life. They have shaped me and they have saved me. If loneliness, depression and fear threaten to overwhelm me, or if I want to escape from the world where others might turn to drink or drugs, I turn to books. My hunger for them is insatiable. I gorge, usually having 2 or more on the go at the same time. I seek out intellectual nourishment in serious novels and non-fiction, devour junk in the form of a guilty purchased thrillers, or get a quick literary fix from a comic. I read in bed, on the bus, in the bath and on the toilet. My soul becomes malnourished if I go without a good book for too long. I am incredibly thankful that there are so many of them, but at the same time disappointed that I will not have enough time in my life to read all the good ones. Which I think is a really nice quote about books. So I would give this book 5 out of 5 stars. I think everyone who... Personally, I think everyone should read this, but if you are incredibly devoutly religious and this doesn't seem like your cup of tea, or you just don't really care about religion and it just doesn't seem like your cup of tea, that's fine. I would strongly recommend that you read this book if you are in a religious community or a religious family and you are questioning your faith and the beliefs of the people around you. I would recommend this book if you're having doubts generally about religion, or if you're an atheist and you're very new to if you're new to atheism, if you have questions, have queries, if you've ever asked a question and people at your church, at your synagogue, at your mosque have said because God made it that way and that wasn't enough for you, I would recommend reading this book. And then I would recommend going and picking out a factual book about the thing that you were curious about from your library, because I think it's incredibly important that you find the answers, because if you have those questions you should have the answers as well. So 5 out of 5 stars for this. I would definitely recommend it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. The group, it's not really a group, we don't have meetings. Ways of protecting. Hi guys, my name's Sophie and today I'm going to do there. Jesus Christ. Hey guys, so I don't know why I start every video with so. It's not like we were in a conversation before.